Hey there folks, Scottsdale Travel Chick's sidekick here to tell you about our trip to Egypt and our cruise down the River Nile. This was undoubtedly one of our most memorable trips we've ever taken. The ancient sites are incredible and there's so much history to be learned. A big pro tip is that you really don't want to visit Egypt on your own. The driving is terrible, it's not particularly safe, and most importantly, you won't get all the historical details unless you hire a guide. The vast majority of tourists to Egypt also book what I would call the standard tour. That's where you visit the key sites in Cairo, then you take a cruise down the Nile to see the main historical sites. That's what we did in what we'll cover over 3 videos broken down into 3 sections shown here. This video is our second of 3 Egypt videos and covers the Luxor area and Middle Nile sites. A bit of history on Luxor. The Luxor area has many impressive sites as it was the capital of ancient Egypt during the New Kingdom, the height of Egyptian power. Luxor was also the city of Amun-Ra, the king of all gods. And Karnak Temple, which celebrates him, was the most important temple in all of ancient Egypt. You might also hear Luxor referred to as Thebes, which was the name the Greeks gave it. The area is often also referred to as the world's greatest open-air museum. Okay, since it's the most important, let's start out with Karnak Temple. It's actually a huge complex of many temples, chapels, pylons, and other buildings. A unique difference about Karnak is that the temple complex was constructed by more than 30 pharaohs over more than 1,500 years. This extended time of use was exceptional compared to all other monuments in ancient Egypt. The overall site is quite large and gives service to multiple gods, like these. But perhaps the most famous aspect of Karnak is the great hypostyle hall in the precinct of Amun-Ra, which just itself is over 50,000 square feet and contains 134 massive columns arranged in rows of 16. At one point, this entire area was covered by a solid roof. Just think about that for a moment. All of that was done back in Egyptian times without the use of modern tools. Just incredible, huh? After visiting Karnak Temple, you can take a look down a long 2-mile promenade that runs from Karnak Temple down to Luxor Temple. This avenue was used for festivals back in the day and was lined with hundreds of human-headed sphinxes all the way down. Next up, Luxor Temple. When it was first rediscovered in the mid-1900s, the temple had been almost completely covered by rubbish and silt from the river, and rebuilt housing from a local Muslim town had grown up on top of it. This temple is unique in that it does not celebrate any one god or king, but simply the process of kingdom rejuvenation. The current belief is this temple was used as a coronation site for new pharaohs. Another interesting history fact, Alexander the Great claimed he was actually crowned at Luxor, but it was never proven. You'll very likely end your tour for the day at Luxor Temple, as it's a great place to get some awesome sunset and evening lit pictures. Colossi of Memnon. Just a short update on this site, as there's not much left but these 2 very large statues, which once guarded the temple of Amenhotep III, one of the most powerful pharaohs of all time. In its day, the temple complex was the most opulent in all of Egypt, but it was heavily damaged by a major earthquake around 1200 BC. Subsequent earthquakes did further damage and opened large crevices in the ground, making the area unusable. Okay, one of the big boys, the Valley of the Kings. This area was in use for almost 500 years during the New Kingdom and is the burial site for many pharaohs. So far, the valley is known to contain at least 64 tombs. Almost all the tombs have been robbed during antiquity, with the very modest tomb of King Tut's being one of the exceptions. At any given time, there are only about 7 to 9 tombs open to the public. We'll talk about 3 of them in this video. It's interesting to note that even today, the area is still being excavated looking for new tombs. First up, Ramses IV. He was the 3rd pharaoh of the 12th dynasty of the New Kingdom. See, I told you there were a lot of pharaohs. He was also the 5th son of Ramses III. He came to the throne after his father was assassinated by one of his secondary wives. I'm telling you, watch out for those secondary wives. His tomb was spectacular, and the colors are still very vibrant after thousands of years.
So we are entering into the tomb of Ramses IV.
Yes.
And you can see the colors on the ceiling here, how rich they are even after.
When they first found this had already been grave robbed and was open since antiquity. There's actually some graffiti on here from Coptic Christians, maybe year 600 to 1200 AD. But the burial chamber was from 2000 AD, something like that. So very old and just very interesting to see all the colors and everything kind of still intact mostly.
So we are inside the tomb.
Main burial chamber.
Here are some more. Someone taking pictures. Rich colors in here. And of course, nothing has been retouched. Wow.
Next up, Ramses IX. He was the 8th pharaoh of the 12th dynasty of the New Kingdom. He is believed to be the grandson of Ramses III, and he lived till he was about 50 years old, which was quite old in those days. Unfortunately, he died a questionable death as his mummy showed signs of multiple broken bones and a missing nose. Ugh.
We are going to be entering into another Ramses tomb here. Ramses the Ramses the Ninth.
Okay, we are at Ramses IX burial tomb. And we're going to go to 2 more after this, but there's a second one. Plexiglass down the side, which is not as cool as the other one.
But you can see some of the still some of the colors in here and on the ceiling. Really fabulous.
Finally, Tutankhamun, or King Tut. He was the 12th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of the New Kingdom, and he became pharaoh in 1332 BC at the young age of about 9. He also died at an early age of approximately 19. What is unique about King Tut's tomb is that it was relatively intact and many artifacts were found when it was rediscovered in 1922.
Okay, so our next tomb we're going to hit is King Tut's.
Okay, so we are entering into King Tut's tomb. here. Check this out. Probably a long line here as well. So we are entering King Tut's tomb. Only 10 people at a time are allowed inside his tomb, but there may be a few more. So we're going to go check this out. And this is his body that's in here.
So we just went to Tutankhamun's tomb.
Yes, King Tut.
What do you think? Was it worth the money?
You know what? I have to say, it's probably not worth the money.
Wasn't as nice as the other three.
The other are magnificent. The colors are brilliant. They're well worth it. All you see is his mummified body and some paintings on the wall. It's really
And one
it's great
sarcophagus.
colors, but not anything.
The Valley of the Queens. As the name suggests, this is where the wives of the pharaohs were buried, and it's nearby the Valley of the Kings. It's not quite as impressive as the Valley of the Kings, but the tomb for Queen Nefertiti was quite nice and worth seeing, as well as another well-preserved tomb with a sarcophagus. Last up, the Temple of Deir el-Bahari. This place is massive. It looks like one building, but it is really a complex of mortuary temples. The first temple was built in the 11th dynasty, around 2000 BC, but others returned more than 500 years later during the 18th dynasty to continue building at the site. It was originally fronted by a great tree-lined causeway 150 foot wide and adjoining gardens, along with many elegant statues which have long since disappeared. The focal point of the complex is the Holy of Holies, mortuary temple for Hatshepsut, who died in 1458 BC. An interesting history point here is that Hatshepsut was actually a woman pharaoh and one of only 2 female pharaohs known to have existed. Wow, I don't know about you, but I'm tired. That was a lot of stuff we covered. And I need to go to bed. So, until next time, see you later.